three big collections that I used in my book. There's UK Shelby Kinkead papers, and then there's a collection of Shelby papers at Filson that just got donated about 3 years ago. And most of the stuff at Filson was written from this house or the house down the road.
Oh, okay, very cool.
And the
I'm doing this for Mom.
Yeah.
but the original house that's on the stone foundation was built by General James, who was the oldest son of the governor.
Yeah.
And his son inherited the house after he died, and this is the son's account book.
Oh, cool.
And it's part of it's a diary, part of it's an account book.
Yeah.
And so after he inherited the house, it came out that the father embezzled $20,000 from his little brother.
Ooh.
And so the son had to sell it to his uncle, and the uncle gave it to his daughter, and her husband was Judge Kinkead.
Okay. Yeah.
And he and his wife, Elizabeth, redid the house in the Italian style, added the wings, and he kept a diary every day of his life pretty much.
Yeah.
And so 16 of those years are written from here.
Okay.
And I've been working on getting them transcribed, at least the Richland
Wow.
years. I've done some of it, but we've
That's a lot of
got
work.
about 8 of the years done.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 7 or 8 Shelby letters written from here, from the Shelby time, and then there's Kinkead letters from here. And the Shelby stuff, some of the stuff dates back to the governor, but most of the stuff's 1840s, and then the
Yeah.
Kinkead stuff, 1840s up into the 1930s and such.
Yeah.
Because one of the Kinkead daughters who was born here, she wrote the first history of Kentucky. And so later in life, she gathered all this information from the family about genealogy and such.
Yeah.
And all of her notes are in there.
Oh, cool. Can I touch things?
And that's a roll of wallpaper that came
Yeah.
out of here.
That's cool.
And these are the Kinkead family Bibles.
Oh, okay. What are you interested in donating?
Probably send on loan, but with the understanding that it would stay.
We can't do loans
Okay.
anymore.
Okay.
The university doesn't let us.
But
So-
then the Kinkead diaries, the letters, the Bibles.
I usually also suggest Bibles stay in the family.
Okay.
Because those are things that are, depending on what's written in them, they can have some research value. But I also find that families just like to keep them. Those are some of the more meaningful bits in family collections.
And if the things went to UK, what would the process of getting it on Explore UK or digitalized collection be?
So it depends. When we take stuff in, we usually make, an intake record for it, and then it gets prioritized for processing. What I usually tell people is don't expect processing to be done for about 2 years.
Okay.
We're a busy shop. And then after that, it'll get a finding aid that's
Okay.
online on Explore UK.
Like the one that's with Clay's papers right now?
And then we don't digitize everything in collections. We usually do some targeted digitization. So the most important step. So in this case, I would suggest diaries would be a good one.
And if I provided you with the transcripts, would you put those up?
Yeah, we could link them with the journals and make them searchable.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And there's a 3 credit hour class for a student that can do this, right? Would I be able to?
Is there? Usually I leave that up to the student. I've supervised practicums many times before, and that's always been fine depending on the student's program.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that online and I thought this would be cool if I got to do it.
Yeah. If you can arrange it, you're welcome to work on it.
Okay.
At Special Collections for part of that credit.
Okay.
So, yeah, as long as you can arrange the class credit.
Yes.
And I or someone else can always do any of the supervisor forms that might be
Good one with
necessary.
that. And a lot of the pictures aren't labeled, but I know who
You
most
know
of
who
them
they
are.
Okay, yeah, that's important.
And some of the daguerreotypes aren't labeled, but yet I know who they are.
Yeah, that's good.
And so there's Kinkead and Shelby in there. But the neatest part is, yes, and Fontaine, and I think there's some Barton in there too. And mixed in these boxes, I was going through them last night. Almost all of these are the Kinkead diaries, but there's 2 McClure account books in here. And there's also an account book from this house in 1860.
Oh, cool.
And that's Elizabeth Williams' wife.
That's pretty.
And then some of the spines are detached, but we've got them all. And is there a restoration that the library can do, or?
We don't have a conservator anymore. In this case, we would generally probably wrap each book individually to keep them from deteriorating further.
Okay.
And we'd probably store the fragments with the
books.
With the books.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry. We don't do intensive restoration anymore since our conservator left. But 5 years ago?
And if these would they just be attached to the Shelby Kinkead papers that are already there, or would it be its own collection, or?
We can do either.
Okay.
In this case, I would probably want to keep it its own
Yes.
collection, so we'd have to come up with a title that was a little more unique than the other ones.
And you know how the other one's called Judge Sam Wilson's collection?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like it to be called Matilda Fontaine Battlemore collection.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. It could be, Matilda. Sorry, La Fontaine Battlemore. Did I get all of those words right? And then something like collection on Shelby and Kinkead papers.
Yes.
So, definitely.
And during the time, you said it takes 2 years for it to be processed up to. And during that time, if I was to come to the library and I wanted to see, I can just come down and see scans or.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, we always make unprocessed stuff available.
Okay, perfect.
So don't worry about that. There's no gatekeeping. And if you want to process it within the next, let's say next semester, we could make that happen.
Okay.
Because what the processing queue waits on is someone to process it.
Okay.
So
if I got the credit hour, I could come and do that whenever?
yeah, you can come do it whenever you want it. So.
And what is it in the processing? Does that involve just saying this is it?
So there's some theory behind it. What processing entails is a total rehouse of everything into correct housing, and then it would be an arrangement. So generally we like to group things by family or people, and then it would be a listing of everything that's in there. So. And then there's what's known as description, which is both the folder titles or the item titles, and then we do scope and content notes, which are like little contextual paragraphs.
About each thing?
Not about each thing. Maybe if something's really important, we would do it about an individual item, but generally groups of items. So say everything about these diaries. These diaries would probably be under, is it William Kinkead? Do I have it right? William Burry?
Judge William Burry. Kinkead Hall's named after him.
Yeah. So it would probably be, a series of stuff for him, and then underneath that, probably a sub-series of diaries, and then that sub-series could maybe have an explanatory note about the diaries.
And I think we got most everything out of Tilly's that's related to this, but if we found another box later on.
Oh, you can always add it.
Okay.
Always. I sent you that deed, correct?
The deed?
The deed of gift, didn't I send that to you?
I need to double check.
That's fine. I'll resend it when I get back and you can read it. That's generally our starting point. But in there's a clause about further additions.
Okay.
Who will be governed under the same agreement.
Okay.
And so I would suggest, since you want a specific name for the collection, that be written into there.
Yes.
And what that deed does is it lays out what you can do and what we do.
Okay.
So how we'll care for the materials, and then what your rights are around.
And it'll all go in acid-free boxes and folders. And
yes, and be stored in temperature and humidity control places. So, and for the age of these materials, we would keep them on site.
Yes.
So.
Would it be with the other Shelby stuff in storage, or just in its own space?
It would be. It would go on our shelves.
Okay.
We don't shelve things together necessarily, though, just where there's space.
Okay.
So it would be either in the King Library stacks, or it would be across the walkway in the little library. We have climate-controlled storage down there.
And what's interesting is there's letters in here that are written from the same days, same weeks as the stuff in Judge Wilson's collection.
Interesting. We can also link collections up together.
Okay.
So there's a note called related materials where we can say, oh, there's also
This over
these
here.
other collections that relate.
And the what's interesting is, so Judge Sam Wilson, when he was
Mhm.
putting his stuff together, he lived in a house on Fayette Park, and he kept all his Shelby materials there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same house where Tilly lives now.
Is it really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
So two big collections of Shelby
Yeah.
stuff in the same place.
Wow. That's cool. So yeah, I think this stuff all looks really, really well taken care of, and I know you're snorting, but I have pulled things out of places you wouldn't believe. Once had someone tell me, well, it's not overtly dangerous.
It's
It was
amazing she
overtly
kept up with it.
dangerous.
It's amazing.
So, definitely.
Seen those on the shelf my whole life, had no idea what they were.
And in the opening to the books that he wrote at Richland, he did he do it in this one? Yeah. So he writes Journal of William Barry Kinkead, 1865, Richland, Fayette County,
Yeah.
and then at the top of each page he writes Richland.
Huh.
And so I thought it'd be fun to at least get these back here one more time before they go somewhere else.
Oh yeah, that is. I recognize that page because
The other, you got the 5 that are
yeah,
there.
yeah. So it's interesting how they were split
Separate.
apart.
What I think happened was, so all these diaries went to Tilly's great grandfather,
Mhm.
except for the 5 that are at UK.
Yeah.
What I think is Tilly's great grandfather's brother asked to borrow those 5, and then when he died, his daughter donated them.
Yeah.
So
It's so interesting how these things happen. Here's my Catholic.
but a lot of the 1860 account book is about the redesign that happened here.
Oh, cool.
And so he hired John McMurtry as
I was gonna
architect.
say,
Yeah.
is it McMurtry?
And that's what I was in each special collections yesterday. I'm working on a second book now just about McMurtry surviving buildings.
Interesting.
And but so I wrapped up the Shelby book a couple months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sending it to me.
Yep.
We'll buy a copy in our new fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yeah, for the reading room.
And I've got any stuff that had letters from UK, I've got it at the top, and let me find one. Here we go.
That's awesome. Very nice. Thank you. Sweet.
But his handwriting is rough.
It's not so bad. The Presbyterian Church at Walmart in Norfolk, Kentucky was organized by the Walnut Hill Church.
That one's only like 3 pages.
Yeah. Oh, it's about how they changed denominations. Kind of interesting.
Those are the McClure ones.
Oh, okay.
And somewhere in here is McClure stuff also. And there's the daguerreotype of Andrew McClure.
Okay. And,
And-
how were the McClures related?
So Andrew McClure had a wife named Rachel McClure.
Mhm.
Their daughter married General James's son, who had the Selby place.
Okay.
And they moved to a house in Jessamine County called the McClure House. And it's 9 bays, it's beautiful,
Oh,
huge, really cool house. And I included that one in the book too.
Look at this thing.
I know. Have you heard of Grassland?
Yes, from you.
Yeah. But that's the other big Shelby
Okay.
house.
All right.
And that little book was given to Elizabeth at Grassland when
Oh,
she was
okay.
a little girl. And so she was 12 years old when her mom died.
Mm-hmm.
And her father came to her and said, if I don't remarry, if I promise not to remarry, will you become the mistress and run the household? And so she agreed, and from 12 years old, she ran the 1,500-acre estate. And then her dad was quoted saying that she was born to command.
Aww. Oh yeah, this is different here
Yes.
than that other book.
Where did Sarah Barton McClure fit in? That's the only name.
So Sarah Barton was the general's son's daughter, so the general's granddaughter. And she owned that big house in Jessamine County when her father died. And she owned it until she was came of age and sold it. But in an 1877 land ownership map, it marks her as the owner, even though she was just a kid.
And female.
Yes.
Wow.
And she was raised after her. So her father, Sarah Barton's dad, the dad's little brother, when he died, he took on raising his niece when she was 7 years old, and then
Sarah Barton.
no, Sarah Barton's cousin. So
okay.
when Sarah Barton's dad died, he asked the girl that he raised, his niece, to raise his daughter.
Okay.
And that lady was Sue's great grandmother. Sue Clark.
Say that again.
So Sue Clark's great grandmother was raised by Big Granny's dad, and then when Big Granny's dad died, Sue's great grandmother raised Sarah Barton, like Big Granny's dad raised her.
I was named after Sarah Barton.
Yeah. And then this lady, this is the governor's daughter, Susan Fishback. UK has a copy of this, I think. This is the only photo of her that everybody sees. But she was kind of like a matriarch of the family, and you know where the theological seminary is on South. So her house was there before they tore it down, and it's in your granddad's book.
Did you finally find a copy of it?
I have the first volume. I don't
But
have
not
the
the
second.
second. Okay, I'll find you that.
Thank you.
I promise. I meant to bring it.
But the house was called Walnut Grove, and apparently there's caves all underneath UK.
Yeah.
And apparently there was an entrance to the cave in the basement.
Oh, really?
And then when they tore the house down, they sealed the entrance up.
There's a man who has given us his stuff, some of his stuff recently, who he hasn't given us this bit yet. He is a geographer who has managed to get into all of the caves in North County at one point or another, including like kind of sealed ones.
That's cool.
So,
God, my husband would kill to do that.
It's pretty cool.
We're spelunkers from way back.
This man is like, if you say the term spelunker, he immediately is like, we do not like that.
I know. That's why I say it in front of him.
Yeah. I love it.
We owned Daniel Boone's cave in Camp Nelson for a few years. Yeah,
That's cool.
tried to preserve
That one's all
that.
just about Richland.
Oh, okay. Scrapbook.
That's my grandfather.
Aw.
But the two oldest, the house was originally Greek Revival with federal accents, and that was the 1824 house.
Yeah.
And then when Bury came around and Italianized it, the first pictures, the oldest pictures are these two over here. And these came from Tilly stuff, but these are staying here. But I got them in the UV frames and.
Oh yeah, that's nice. So this is the original.
No, there's nothing in the original. This is after the Italian.
Okay.
But so the original house stopped just above these windows, and then they're in the UK letters. There's letters about the redesign, and they're talking about how they raised the roof up, added this, extended the wings. And what's neat is in the UK letters, there's a section about over here. They talk about how they wanted to change the arrangement, and they wanted this door to be here so that it would go through here, and they thought it would give better access to the kitchen.
Yeah.
And on top of that beam up there, when I redid this room, I found a note, and it says, I papered this whole house, W.P. Dale, 1860.
Oh, cool.
And I kept hoping that in the diary I would hear something about who Dale was.
Yeah.
And I think he was just some random contractor.
Yeah. It's a lovely house.
Thank you.
How much did you redo?
This room, and then my grandfather did the L, and then the oldest part of the house, the main block, hasn't been redone yet, but I plan to eventually.
Okay.
And there used to be a staircase that goes to two travelers' rooms up there. And you all have a copy of Judge George Kinkead, William's son, his memoir.
Yeah.
In his memoir, he talks about growing up here, and during the Civil War, the house got attacked, and he stayed up in those rooms and hid.
Oh wow.
Didn't help, they found him.
So to get to the rooms now, you have to
Pull down ladder.
Pull that ladder down.
But so there's a secret room above those travelers' rooms over above these two rooms.
Okay.
Then this brick wall goes all the way up,
Uh-huh.
and there's a room above us that you can only get to it by crawling through a trap door in the crawl space.
That's amazing.
I know, indeed. We've had the house for 55 years, and I found it 2 years ago.
Oh man.
Because I only found it because the grandson of the last owner came here right before he died, and he told me that when he was a kid, they hid the family silver in that room. So I went looking for silver.
Did you find it?
No. I found old pots, though.
Okay. Wow. I guess it was just sort of walled off during all the different.
The redesigns. I kind of figured they kept it like that as a panic room, maybe, or...
Okay.
But
Hide
so,
stuff.
to get to it, you crawl through a blind window above this door, and then you drop into a hallway that shoots you the length all the way to that window. Then you turn right, and you drop 5 feet into the hallway.
Oh, man.
Then you run that way, and then you turn right into the room that takes you into there.
Oh wow. That's cool.
But I spent the book covers 8 houses and the lives of 14 of the Shelby family members.
That's a lot of houses.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any more questions for me about the process?
I
will resend you that deed
Yes.
for you guys to look at. It's generally a starting point that we have. Let's see. If there's anything that you really want a scan from, you guys can think about that too. Because we can do some scanning. I hesitate to say scan everything.
Yeah. I haven't scanned this yet because I only have a lay down scanner and I don't want to open it up.
Yeah. We have
The big overhead.
overhead scanners and we have more down in our back area too.
Because that one's really fragile. And the binding is just lapped over it. It doesn't actually connect anymore.
Oh, yeah.
But the
Where was that?
that was in the same bookcase as this stuff. Well, I don't think it was originally. I think I found it in a box and moved it over there.
Yeah.
But the in Tilly's attic there's a bunch of music books, like from the judge's daughter used to play the piano, and it's all her little music books, and those are the only things that I think I can think of that are still there. But you might find a random box somewhere. But so what we did was we tried to make these little with the dates and to try to sort everything the best we could.
Yeah. That's great.
Is that what you and Sue did then?
That's great. Copies of the National
Registered
Register entries. Very cool. Very helpful. Yeah. Let's see. What do you have from the 1700s?
Nothing heard. But there is some stuff in there that's from the governor's time. I know, like there's a deed that's signed by him, and the
Copy of his will.
yes, there's 2 or 3 copies of the will.
Yeah.
But he owned 3,000 acres in Fayette County, and he owned a bunch in Lincoln. But so the land that we're on now, he split it in half. The northern half went to the oldest son who built this place, and the southern went to the younger who built Grassland.
Okay.
And then it ended up, the older son's family got completely destroyed, and so the younger son ended up with everything.
Oh, okay. Huh. Well, who's this?
That is the governor's wife,
Oh, okay.
Susan Hart Shelby. She was the daughter of Nathaniel Hart, the pioneer.
Yeah. Got a bunch of heart stuff.
Yeah.
Collections too.
And when you all are with the collections, do you all talk about the houses at all, or is it just compiling the...
It depends on the collection. So, for this stuff, say there's a lot about the houses, we could talk about the houses in notes. Some other collections don't necessarily have a lot about specific houses, so they're not mentioned.
And there was one thing that I found when I was there, and I was wondering who the collection was or why it was there.
Oh, yeah.
Anna Dudley McGinn Lilly papers.
Oh, I'm not sure about the provenance of those. I guess I could look it up.
But she had this picture, one of the old pictures of Richland in her collection.
If I'm remembering the collection correctly, she did a bunch of genealogical sort of research. So let's see. Take me a second.
But what I think is so neat is that these were literally on a shelf here. Then they went into town. They went to so after the Kinkades sold this place, they bought Ingleside.
Oh yeah.
And so they were at Ingleside. Then they went to 2nd Street. Then they went to your house. Then they went to Tilly's, and then they came back here.
So on 2nd, was it the Breckenridge house?
Whatever house the big granny owned.
2nd Street.
Yes.
423 West.
Yes. So they would have been there.
That's where I grew up.
And at one point, y'all had
It's the John Breckenridge house.
Yes, the one with the big plaque out front. And at one point, y'all had the governor's Jewett and the swords underneath, right?
When was it donated? That collection was donated in 1967. Let's see, by Miss Austin P. Lilly, which I'm assuming is perhaps a daughter or does not give me information about who she was. Sometimes it does. So, let's see.
When something gets scanned to be put on Explore UK, how long does that take to get it on?
Scanning, depending on how much it is, can add like another year on
Okay.
the whole process.
But from the point when it's all ready to go, like how long does it take to get it from the scan to Explore UK?
Well, once it's scanned and putting it on Explore UK, if it's done with our workflow from the beginning, like, you know, depending on how big it is, maybe a day, it doesn't take that long. If
And-
everything's sorted correctly, because it's all done with computer scripts.
And so I know the William Pratt diaries that are scanned, if you want, so those are just the straight scans, the diary. So if you wanted to add the transcripts with those, would they be on the same?
We can do a couple different ways. For readability, we would we could list transcripts on the same finding aid as their own thing,
Okay.
and scan those, and those would be an object you could read. We can also link up the transcript as long as it's divided by page.
Okay.
Like, you know, there's a 1-to-1 ratio of pages, so there's very clearly marked what's page 1, what's page 2. We can put it in the metadata as if it were OCR,
Okay.
like an OCR PDF page. So that would make it sort of searchable.
Okay.
So we can do that. We can do both ways.
And if we decide to send these to UK once, would everything be in, would we get a written up statement about that? What does that look like? Once we give them to you, do you send something back that
Like
says,
an inventory list?
Yeah, like an inventory or the stuff that we've sent you just to know what we sent or?
So usually the donor will provide that for us of what they're giving.
Okay.
When the way the deed looks is there's a little spot where you can write out what you're giving us.
Okay.
Or you can just attach like a typed thing.
Okay.
It won't get an in-depth inventory beyond, you know, Shelby correspondence and genealogical files, William Berry Kinkead diaries, account books. It won't go anything below that.
Okay.
What I send you afterwards would be a copy of the signed and countersigned deed of gift and a letter of acknowledgement.
Okay.
So, yes. And for tax purposes, donations under $5,000 do not need to be appraised by an outside person. If you think it is worth more than $5,000, you'd have to get an outside appraiser to appraise it. And then that could be donated, and our Office of Philanthropy would provide the necessary tax document signatures that you guys would need.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's that. And that can be a bit of a process.
Yeah.
So I would say don't donate right at the end of the year.
Yeah.
If you want your signed tax document by April 15th. So.
But so if these were to come, say, by the end of summer, early fall, when I talk to the people about the credit hours course, I can just refer to you about getting this proper signing off, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can list me as the person to, be your site supervisor, or, I guess if you needed a faculty member, I'm a faculty member, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it just depends on, what program you're
Yes.
fit through. What program are you?
I'm in arts and science,
Okay.
but I'm getting a minor in historic pres.
Oh,
And
okay.
I really want to I want to just do the class because I think it seems interesting,
Yeah,
and I want to be involved in doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah. We've worked with historic preservation many times, so.
Because I want to do the grad school for it eventually.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, you might consider that, given your interest.
Yes, and these have been like my child for the past 2 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, happy to set that up.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem. No problem at all. Any other questions? I can say it definitely fits in with our current business very well. We'd be very happy to have the
rest of the
crowd
diaries.
and
Because when I first found the diaries, well, I found y'all's stuff first, and I assumed that those 5 diaries were all that survived. And then when I found Tilly, I opened up the cabinet and I'm like, oh, there's the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, we would love to have those, have the whole run. So, yeah.
It would be so neat to have them all
Oh,
together.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and we can also, if those are the things that you do definitely want scanned, you could also scan the ones from the other collections.
To get that would be great. And did you all meet Joan Cashin last summer when she was doing research with y'all?
I believe so. The name sounds very familiar.
So she's doing her own book on Shelby stuff, and she's super neat. I bet you she'll come back, but she was here this time last year.
I'm trying to remember if she was the person really interested in a table in the record. It might have been her.
She's from Ohio State.
Okay. The name and the research address do sound very familiar to me, so I'm sure I did.
But so it's neat. She's covering a lot of the same ground.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've been comparing notes, and in
Oh,
here, one of the sons of the general,
Mm-hmm.
him and the general got estranged, and he kicked the son out. 2 years later, they're still estranged. The son's drunk downtown at the Phoenix.
Of course.
Yes, it's always the Phoenix.
Yeah.
And then he kills his best friend. And so then the father comes out of the estrangement and tries to bail his son out.
Oh, wow.
And so it doesn't work. He offers half of his fortune as bond, and it gets denied.
Ooh.
So he does the next best thing, and he hires Henry Clay.
Oh, well.
And then Henry Clay gets him off.
Oh, wow.
But so the son, then the son comes back here and is like under the father's thumb, so the father watches him. Then the father gets congestive fever and dies, and then the son runs away. He goes to Texas.
Of course.
Yeah. And then he shows back up here though 15 years later in the middle of the Civil War. And Joan found there's one reference to him showing up in one of J. Coleman's books.
Okay.
There's one reference in the Pratt Diaries, which Joan found. And then I found a reference to him showing up here in the 1862 diary.
Interesting.
So she's trying to talk about what happened to him and how he got away with what he did.
Yeah. Oh, fascinating. That's cool.
But there's a whole J. Coleman book about it. It's called Henry Clay's Last Criminal Trial.
I know the book.
Yeah.
I know the book very well. I didn't remember the name of the defendant though.
Yeah.
For making that up. Wow. Very cool.
But it's a really neat how, because it was a huge, with the people that I talked to, they referred to the Shelbys as the closest thing Kentucky had to aristocracy, the blue blood.
Yeah. It's so interesting too.
They thought they were.
Yeah.
How all those families are so like
Intertwined and
yeah. Yes.
That cousin thing is real.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet it was that way in a lot of like frontier areas during that time. So.
And Joan did an article that's how I got connected with her. She did an article in the Filson Club magazine.
Yeah.
It was called The Shelbys, the Hearts in Their Houses.
Oh, cool. Cool. Wow. Very cool.
Can you think of anything from Mom's point of view that she would want to ask? Because you've sat with her through all of this.
That's what I tried to hit the main topics.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I don't think like they do.
But I definitely want to make sure in the title Tilly gets acknowledged.
Oh yeah, of course. We're happy to do that.
That's the main thing when we gave my grandfather's photos to the Lexington Public Library. We just wanted credit when people used them was all.
Yeah.
So his name was kept up.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Would you go over the process one more time for the slower people in the room? You send the deed and he looks over it and
Forward to
then
you.
and we look over it, whatever, and then there's an acknowledgement.
That's me.
What is that?
That's a letter of thank you from us.
For you just saying that, yes, this is what I got on your inventory
we've
list?
Received it. It's
Like a bill of
awesome.
lading almost?
Not a bill of lading, more an expression of deep gratitude.
Oh, okay. But it's like he can come up with an inventory,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then you acknowledge that that was what was
Yes.
donated.
Yes. Yes.
And we proofread Mom's name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Since that's really important to you guys, we should write that in the deed what the name of the collection should be. So,
Yes, you should.
Yes.
yes, so that we get it right. So,
Matilda de La Fontaine Battlemore? Kinkead? You can't keep that straight. Where are you from?
you would be surprised the number of, like sometimes people want all the names, and then, at some point 20 years ago, someone dropped a name, right? So,
We will get it right.
so yeah, let's get it right.
I don't have any questions if you can't think of any that Mom
Not
would
that I can think
ask.
of any other.
Yeah, all right. Well, it was lovely to meet you
Yeah.
all, and to see you again,
Yeah.
and to meet you, Sarah.
You too. So say your name so Mom knows.
It's Meg Mummy.
Meg and Mummy.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yes.
I'll send you the deed when I
Yes.
get back to work, and we'll take it from there.
Yes.
All right?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for showing me around the house.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. I
You want
love
to see the main part before we go?
Yeah, I do.
Do this.
It's like I'm gonna grab a little coffee first.
Yeah.
My mom came to the book signing, but she couldn't get up to get in, so I'm gonna follow you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it. I've gotten to see little peeks at lots of old houses around this area from my job.
So this is the end of the original block and L,
Okay.
and then when the Kincaids came and did their redesign, they extended the L, built the bay window room, which has the high ceilings,
Okay.
and then when we came here, my grandparents redid these 3 rooms and then the big room.
Okay.
And this was the bedroom, and they intended on redoing the whole thing, and then the house caught fire
Oh, God.
and burned away the staircase.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the 3rd story is completely gone.
Oh, wow.
But we still have 6 bedrooms relatively intact up there.
Wow.
And, and this room was the general's original office. And
Oh,
there's
okay.
letters that he wrote in here that are at the Library of Congress to Andrew Jackson.
Wow. Very cool.
And it was all during something called the Chickasaw Treaty,
Yeah.
where Andrew Jackson kind of just besmudged the governor's name.
Yeah.
And the governor was dead, so he couldn't defend himself. So his son kind of rose to the defense. And the real tall doors were part of the Italianate redesign. And McMurtry's original plan was supposed to be a whole lot more grand. And then Kinkead said, this costs too much, go back, do it again.
Oh, wow.
And that was the design that it is now. And the staircase, you can kind of follow the outline.
Yeah.
But there is a description in the National Register of what the Newell post down here looked like.
Okay.
That was an Italianate octagonal design, and the
Oh.
upper stories kept the original Greek design.
Oh, okay.
But so, there's no pictures of the staircase, and the only description is what's in the register. But so I've been talking to Patrick Lucas, Patrick Schnaden, and Dr. Birchfield about what to
I
go
know
back.
all those names.
Yeah. And so they're helping me get an idea of what we could do to how to do it.
Yeah, they're very cool. Can I think in there too?
And so you get the original 4-room central hall.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And the original, the double parlor over here was originally 2 separate rooms. And then they redid it and combined it. And this is not one of the pure Greek order columns. That's called Tower of the Winds order.
Oh, wow.
And as far as I know, there's only one other place in Kentucky that has those type of columns.
Really?
It's Clay Lancaster's Tower of the Winds in Warwick.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
And so it's really neat because I was talking to Patrick Schnaden about it, and he identified them straight away and knew exactly what they were.
Gosh, the molding is beautiful.
I know. And my plan is get a 3D scanning wand, find the repeating pattern, and 3D print the missing parts.
Oh, cool.
And these big cast iron mantles. So in the Shelby papers at UK, it talks all about the redesign.
Yeah.
And it said in 1860, they had 5 of these mantles shipped down from Covington, and we still have 3 of them. There's the 2 in here, and then there's 1 in the cellar.
Are you gonna try to recreate the wallpaper?
Well, so in that box, that roll of wallpaper came out of this house.
Oh, okay.
And it either came from this room or the big room.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I want to put that in here.
Yeah.
This wallpaper is 1920s.
Oh, okay.
And there's 2 mirrors that were 12 feet tall that hung in here from the 1890s to 1870. There's one there, one there.
Yeah.
And I want to try to get those back one day.
Oh, cool.
But our next project is going to be the central hall in the front entry. And then I'm hoping between 3 to 4 years we can move in here.
Okay, wow.
And in the UK letters, it also talks, there's these 2 large granite slabs that go in front of the hearth.
Yeah.
And they were supported by vaulted brick. And the mortar crumbled. The slabs are like 300 pounds.
Oh,
So,
they fell?
yep, they're down in the cellar.
Oh, wow.
And they're in 2 pieces.
Oh.
But they're still fixable.
Yeah.
But I flipped it over, and there's a maker's mark on the back of them.
Oh, cool.
It's a T with a diamond around it. So I want to try to track down where it came from in Covington.
Neat. That's so cool.
And all the iron grills that went around the top and the base of the house, those came from Covington too. And I want to eventually look into where those came from and up there and find all the distributing places.
Yeah.
And my goal from the diaries and the letters is I want to gather. I've got all the letters from Filson that were written here, all the ones from UK, all the ones from Tilly's stuff.
Yeah.
I've got them scanned. I'm gonna transcribe them all and transcribe the diaries, and I'm gonna print out a booklet that has all the letters and then one from all the diaries. So if anybody wanted to flip through and read about it, they can.
Yeah, that's cool. Man, it's gonna be a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it'll be beautiful. I
Yeah.
bet.
And then we need to figure out how to get these out of here.
I was gonna say, how did they get in here?
That's the question. So they weren't here when we bought the house, and then my grandfather got them in here somehow.
Yeah.
And in the National Register in 78, they're already in here.
Huh.
So they've been here almost 40, 50 years.
I'm wondering if they like took the wheels off.
That's what I imagined, but then why would you rebuild it in here?
I know. Those probably won't be too hard to get out with this guy.
But the neat thing is all of these windows slide up and then it opens in a breeze. And it's really neat. And they did because the house faces north-south and the windows are north-south. And then so that you get the breezes with the sun going east-west.
Okay, that's clever.
And then what I've been doing is I've been gathering scraps of wallpaper from every room.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Patrick Lucas a couple summers ago about one day doing a thesis just about the different redesigns here.
Yeah. We have some wallpaper samples, I think, from the Pope House.
I was there last week.
Yeah, they were used, the Mary Todd Lincoln House used them to make a recreation of those period wallpapers to put in
That's neat.
Mary Todd Lincoln House. It's really cool.
But something else, this chest has been here since we bought the place, as far as we can tell. And there's no idea how these got here. No idea what they are. But there's schematics and blueprints for some type of farming equipment and the guy's notes. And there's letters from the governor giving this guy patents.
Cool.
And at some point we're going to donate these. The guy lived in Richmond, but is this something UK would be interested in?
I'd say so.
But yeah, we have no idea how they got here.
Yeah.
And then this is entirely separate. Don't know what this is. Go ahead. There are only like 2 or 3 pages in there.
Did you see the chest that Mom has in the attic like that?
Yes.
Did you look in it?
But that book looks
Belle and Yale. Or Yola? Lola? Belle and Lola, maybe?
But this book, I thought, looks a similar age to the Kinkead stuff.
Yeah. Huh.
And then they have the like grocery list on there.
Love it. Eggs and meat.
And then it's only like that one page.
Huh. It's probably they found the old book and thought it would be fun to use for paper.
Before the fire, the attic was filled with receipts and letters and everything. Those all burned up, but apparently you couldn't even move in there. There was so much stuff.
God, that hurts.
I know. I never got to see it. Yeah. But if I'd seen it, I would have gone through, digitalized, cataloged it all.
Yeah. Wow. This is a job.
I know. I know.
It's harder.
But down here, this room was really water damaged.
Oh, was
because
it?
when we got the house, it had a full plaster ceiling, all the molding was still
Yeah.
here, and then the water that they used to put out the fire on the second story.
Damaged everything.
And this bit of plaster is the only plaster left on the first
Wow.
floor.
Wow.
But we have pictures of the ceiling medallions from
Yeah.
these rooms and in there, and I'm gonna put it back how it's supposed to be eventually.
Yeah. Oof. Very cool. Thanks for showing me.
But one of the neatest things is the driveway. It curves and winds, and it's in the
Yeah.
shape of an S for Shelby.
Oh, really? I didn't even notice. Are you guys gonna rebuild the porch?
That's the plan. When we do the
Yeah.
central hall, we're gonna do that too.
Oof.
But there's supposed to be a big portico right here,
Yeah.
and there were 4 cast iron Corinthian columns that went
Okay.
there, and they were apparently they were super ornate. Those
Yeah.
came from Covington too,
Oh, okay.
but those are gone. And one day we'll do that, but that'll be a different project than the
Yeah.
porch.
Yeah.